Speaking of Kirk Cousins, he's first on our list for quarterback free agent landing spots. Obviously, Washington, not your preferred landing spot as a free agent. I think for me, this one is easy. We're going to run through all the quarterbacks here. I think it's Atlanta if you want to put him on a new team, and Minnesota if you want him to come back to his old team. I don't know if did you read there's an article on ESPN, and it was let's see if I can find it real quick.
I don't read non-CBS sports websites, Brenton.
I do. I don't read.
I didn't read it.
I don't read CBS sports. Just kidding. I love reading.
God.
I love. I read.
Brenton won't be hosting Monday because he's fired.
I just said I write for CBS. Of course, I read CBSSports.com. No, but Kevin Seifert, who is like a general national writer technically, but is very close to Minnesota, and is like close to he and like sort of like Mike Sando is with the Seahawks. They just know a lot of people in that organization, and he wrote a story called "Connecting Dots: Why Kirk Cousins is Likely Leaving the Vikings," and breaking it down, getting Cousins signed before March 13th might have been a possibility if there were no obvious suitors around the league. Second dot emerged. So the first dot is the renegotiated contract Cousins signed last spring, one that voids on March 13th. The details of the contract effectively mean that the Vikings are going to re-sign it for 2024. They'll need to do it before the free agent market opens March 13th. If they were to sign him after that point, his 2024 salary cap number would include a $28.5 million dead money overlay. In other words, if they sign Cousins after March 13th, when free agency opens, then there'll be a bunch of dead money on the cap. Now, this is where it's good.
Then they have to take the cap hit of the new contract plus the 28 on the old contract.
And Cousins wants a fully guaranteed deal, which means that you're talking about something in the range of $68.5 million in terms of the cap, like that you're allocating for Kirk Cousins on your cap. And that's tough to do. And, he points out that because Cousins is going to have suitors, specifically the Falcons and possibly the Raiders, it means the Vikings are not going to be able to get a sweetheart deal from Cousins, which means it's very likely that he leaves Minnesota, which I didn't think was really going to be in the cards. So I'll say Atlanta is the best landing spot.
Yeah, I actually agree with you here. Look, we know his wife is from Atlanta. We know Mike Florio has been touting this all week about the old wives talk, the old chatter system, the gossip that it's pretty strong.
Oh, yeah, no, it's Florio. This is wild as hell. Florio goes out there and is like, he's like, I get tips sometimes and I follow up on them. And maybe it's like, so-and-so's like exploring a school. Like basically like Cousins' wife is checking out schools in Atlanta, and like somehow that got back to Florio through a anonymous tipster.
So although I think that the Raiders or Broncos could make sense, Cousins is totally a family kind of guy who doesn't just want to uproot his whole entire family and move him to Las Vegas for 2 years or move him to Denver for 2 years. His wife is from Atlanta, specifically the Alpharetta area, which is where I lived for 3.5 years. Shout out Alpharetta.
Fish played an incredible edition of Tweezer
in Alpharetta
a few years back.
Yeah, Alpharetta somehow has its own music arena.
Yeah,
music venue. But yeah, so I think the Falcons make the most sense with those two NFC West teams, probably, or AFC West teams, Broncos and Raiders, as 2, 3. But yeah, I think we agree on this with the Falcons being the best landing spot for Kirk Cousins.
Absolutely. How about Baker Mayfield? Excuse me. I skipped Russell Wilson.
Well, I feel like Baker Mayfield can be done short. So let's just do Baker. I think he stays in Tampa Bay. I think it's the place that makes sense. If you're Baker Mayfield, why would you want to start over? You just had a season where you led your new team to the playoffs. You're getting Mike Evans back, who was one of your favorite receivers during the 2023 season. You don't want to learn a new playbook. Just stay in Tampa Bay. So I think that's what ends up happening.
And also worth noting that Atlanta is considered like the other big suitor for Baker Mayfield. But if Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta, like Cousins is the domino where if he doesn't sign with Minnesota in the first 2 days, you have to think that Baker probably goes back to Tampa. And I agree. I think Tampa, it makes too much sense. And the way that the Bucs are sort of operating they let it. They were sort of letting everybody get out. Like they didn't try and like rush these deals. I feel like they're confident that these guys are that they're gonna get most of these guys back, including Baker. Russell Wilson, Jerry Dulac. I don't know who he works for now, but he reported that used to be the Post-Gazette. He reported that there's mutual interest between Russ and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You think Russ ends up in I think either Pittsburgh or Las Vegas for Russ.
Yeah, you know what? We've talked about this on the podcast multiple times. You and I talked about it. Brady and Deuce talked about it when they were bringing up specific spots where Russell Wilson might land. And the Steelers just make a lot of sense if you are looking for a veteran quarterback and you look at what his track record is. When he was successful in Seattle, what did he have? He had a great defense. He had a good running game. He had pretty good receivers to throw to. That's what he would have in Pittsburgh. And is he the Russell Wilson of old? Absolutely not even close. But if you put that much talent around him, I think he is an upgrade over Kenny Pickett, and he is an upgrade over Mason Rudolph. And at this point, that's what matters. And guess what? If you're getting him for the league minimum, then, if this was 35 or 40 million, that was per year, and that was Russell Wilson's asking price, no, you don't do it for Steelers. That doesn't make sense. But for 1.15 million, now it makes sense. So, yeah, I like the Steelers as a landing spot here.
Yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh's been sort of trying to like act like they're just gonna, roll with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, and I just don't believe that. Now, I get it if you're trying to, sort of mitigate you're trying to minimize the market that the Bears have for Justin Fields because you don't want, to cough up a lot if that's who you want to go get. But I mean, yeah, I think Russell Wilson makes way more sense for Pittsburgh. He would fit in. I don't know that he and Mike Tomlin would be buddies, but I think that their personality, like Mike Tomlin loves a catchphrase. The standard is the standard, et cetera, et cetera. And Russell Wilson is a human, or actually not a human. He's a robot. He's an optimistic robot. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense for Russ. And if that doesn't happen, I could see him going to the Raiders. Sort of, same reasons without maybe the great defense. But you think you're going to have a decent run game if you get Josh Jacobs back. And I don't think that he wants to be a backup anywhere. And so he will probably be willing. I think he'd be more willing to go play for the Raiders, even knowing that he might not win a bunch of games, than like go be a backup somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is that he's going to want a chance to start. And when you look at all these other teams out there, there just isn't a huge list of spots where he's going to be the guaranteed starter. And even in Pittsburgh, I think he would have to earn the job. But yeah, he's not going to sign up to be the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan Tannehill, former Dolphins first round pick, Ryan Tannehill. Ooh. I think. Oh, by the way, where did Jordan Najani put Kirk? He said I think I saw in the chat like Jordan said that like Russ was going to go to the Titans or Kirk Cousins was going to the Titans. What was it?
Jordan wrote a story on Russell Wilson landing spot.
Yes,
he included
it
the
blew
Titans.
up too.
Now hold on a second. He included the Titans. Our social media team grabbed his landing spots, put it on Instagram, and just made a graphic that showed the teams that were on Jordan's list. So Jordan got grilled for having the Titans on there. Although if you read the story, Jordan was not saying that Russell Wilson would be the Titans starter. It said if he was willing to be a backup, then Tennessee would be perfect because you have Will Levis, you have a rookie. And, he got banged up a little bit last year. And if he does, Russell Wilson goes in and start. And also, if Sierra's looking to continue her music career, Nashville's the perfect place to do it.
He said that I think I saw him say that he was being roasted, like he's hated in Nashville right now, and he's being roasted by every sports radio station.
Well, there you go. Russell Wilson, the Titans can be in your what a fan base.
Oh, great call! It's a great call, Russell Wilson, the Titans. All right, good call. Let me. I need to write that down.
Write that down.
Why don't you tell me where Ryan Tannehill's going to go while I write this down?
All right, I got two for Tannehill, but I'm going to put the first one first. Obviously, that sounded so dumb. Why did I say that? No,
okay, you should put the second one second while you're at it.
Yeah, I'm going to put the second one second. So I have Ryan Tannehill going to the Vikings. I think that if they are going to lose Kirk Cousins, and as we just talked about, it's looking more and more like they are, then you kind of have this smart, savvy veteran that I think would work very well in a Kevin O'Connell offense. When Kevin O'Connell's out there looking for who is going to be his next quarterback, you're picking 11th in the draft. You have no idea who's going to be available. If you trade up, now you're giving up assets. I don't know if that's a great idea. And when you look at these quarterbacks who might fit in that offense, I think Tannehill's the best option. So the Vikings, but 1B for me that I would have listed if we didn't have Russell Wilson going to the Steelers is the Steelers. Because, look, they just hired Arthur Smith. Those two guys, Ryan Tannehill, Arthur Smith, very familiar with each other. They spent 2 seasons together in Tennessee. Obviously, Arthur Smith was in Tennessee a lot longer from 2011 to 2020. But in 2019, 2020, Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. Brinson, do you remember what happened in 2019?
The Tennessee Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC.
They were not.
Oh, they went to the AFC.
They made the playoffs, though. They made the playoffs. And then in 2020, they were the 1 seed. I tricked you.
Gotcha.
But yes, they did make it to the AFC title game in 2019, and then they were the number 1 seed in 2020. So that was your 2 years with the Arthur Smith Tannehill combination. The Titans, Tannehill went 18-8 as a starter, and you have an AFC title game appearance and the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, in a loaded AFC. So I think those are 2 impressive performances. So I think
go get Derrick Henry while you're at it too.
Get the band back together.
Yeah.
So I think that the Steelers are my choice 1B, but I'll say the Vikings.
I think the Vikings make a lot of sense as well. This is a team that, in Minnesota, you have Kevin O'Connell made it work with some questionable quarterbacks after Kirk Cousins went down. Why not go get a smart, savvy veteran like Ryan Tannehill? Yeah, I'll say I think those are 2 good picks. I'm not gonna override them, anything like that. Gardner Minshew, your boy. Played well enough for the Colts last year that he can probably go get a spot. I mean, but probably ends up being a backup.
Yeah.
Just go back to Indy. Anthony Richardson can't stay healthy.
Why not? I mean, if you're Gardner Minshew, why do you want to leave? You get a chance to maybe play again. You have no idea what Richardson's going to look like because he really didn't play last season due to his injury. But if he does, I do think the Colts would be a decent landing spot. But if he does leave Indy, look, Gardner Minshew is not somebody who needs to go in and be a starter, but you are going to have one of the top backups in the NFL. So it becomes kind of a safe play or someone to sit behind a rookie, kind of like the Colts did with Minshew last season was, hey, we're going to draft a quarterback, but we also have Gardner Minshew here as our kind of safety net. And so in that sense, I think the Commanders or the Raiders could work as long as but as a backup quarterback, I think one of those teams draft a quarterback and then Gardner can sit there as number 2 guy.
I'll double down. I'll say the Raiders. I like the Raiders as a spot for Gardner Minshew. Sort of like hey, this team is going with a first-year coach promoted as an interim. They're not. I mean, Vegas, Gardner Minshew in the silver and black would be fun.